The history of Western philosophy, according to Alfred North Whitehead, has been a series of footnotes to Plato. This is largely literally true. A big part of classical and scholastic philosophy was simply commentary on Plato and Aristotle. This isn't because these later thinkers were unintelligent or unoriginal, but because they recognized the depth in Plato and Aristotle and they wanted to understand it. It took 1,000 years until someone actually systematized the Platonic philosophy. Steps were made in Middle Platonism, Neoplatonism. It really wasn't completed until Proclus, and arguably it wasn't really completed then. That tradition was basically dropped for historical reasons. The academy was shut down by Christian censors, and then shortly thereafter, that whole region was conquered by the Saracens. So we kind of lost that intellectual tradition. It resurfaced nevertheless, and the fingerprints of Platonism can be found from the deepest recesses of Western esotericism, occultism, to the history of mathematics, to problems in contemporary philosophy. The problem of universals, the problem of identity. These were first raised coherently in the history of philosophy by Plato. Problems in epistemology. If you actually trace the epistemological views in the early academy, in a figure like Carneades, one of Plato's successors, the basic position is scientific realism. They recognize the hypothetico-deductive method. And then within that, of course, Plato had his theory of anamnesis, but the extent to which that is mythologically representative of the way that we come to know versus a literal account has to be interpreted. All of Plato has to be interpreted carefully because he doesn't just spell things out in the dialogues. He did that consciously, intentionally. He was passing on secret doctrines that were esoteric within the walls, that were meant to stay within the Pythagorean order. And Pythagoras got those teachings from closed esoteric societies, priests in Egypt, the Chaldeans, the Magi, Scythians. He was passing on the metaphysical structure of myth that goes back to the beginning of the Bronze Age and likely much earlier. He formalizes it. He introduces a new structure of consciousness. Plato refines it, delivers it in an elegant way, and later thinkers were trying to get back to that core. We should expect that this would be the case. The previous mode of consciousness, the mythological structure of consciousness, had developed for thousands of years and reached an apex. And then a conversion was made to a more rational structure of consciousness. And this rational structure began by dissecting the contents of that mythological mode of thought. We shouldn't dismiss the wisdom that was contained in myth. There are metaphysical, cosmogonic, theogonic, theurgic principles in myth that they weren't all just erroneous. They evolved. They were successful. There's a reason why people had the mythological views that they did. And it wasn't all just trial and error. I mean, there's subconscious knowledge that we have that is expressed to us symbolically. There's plenty of examples of, mathematicians or scientists who have been thinking on a problem, brooding over a problem, and then in a dream, this vision comes to them symbolically, and it has the answer. The psyche is mysterious in that way. So this is where Platonism comes from. It's a rationalization of this vast Mediterranean/Indian mythological complex, the ancient metaphysics, not just of the classical period, but of the Bronze Age, and probably going much further back than that, because where did that Bronze Age civilization come from? Where were the mythological roots laid down? In fact, they were laid down with Göbekli Tepe. The basic structure of life, the economic structure, the way things were done for thousands of years we see it begin in the archaeological record in eastern Anatolia. and it comes out of nowhere, suddenly flourishing. This is the way that so much of ancient civilization seems to work. Egypt begins with its most sophisticated art and architecture, and it degrades from there. It began with the most sophisticated medical theories. The most advanced medical document from the literature is a medical papyri dated from Egypt around 2800 BC. Nothing surpasses it until Hippocrates, 2,400 years later. It's not a gradual progression. Things were laid down by mysterious forces that we don't fully understand. And Plato is a gateway to all of that. In fact, he is the gateway to that. It's a matter of what's on record. What is that rational system that had access to these more archaic modes of thought directly? We don't have access to the Egyptian priests. The Egyptian priesthood has died out. In Plato's day, it was still around. In Pythagoras' day, it was still around. The Chaldeans are no more. That ancient wisdom is gone for us, but it was rationalized with Plato. And when I read Proclus, the Elements of Theology, I see a system that is sufficiently complex and technical that we can engineer systems based on this view of things. Not in terms of efficient causation, but we can engineer these other levels of causation using principles of theurgy. That's what Proclus wanted to use his system for. We shouldn't believe that we're the most intelligent beings in reality. In all likelihood, there are much greater intelligences than us, and it's totally possible that we could tap into them in some way, that there are deep forces underlying reality that we can tap into, that we can summon. That's been used by countless civilizations, tribes, peoples. These ideas have been used, but never as fully systematized as in the Platonic synthesis. If you want to understand it, you need to read the dialogues, but it's not easy to read the dialogues. They have to be interpreted. In light of that, I'm going to start a Plato reading group, and I've been dealing with the issue that we collectively are in a much lower moral place than we would like to be. You know, I see this. I'm producing videos talking about these ideas. I see your reaction to them, you collectively. I see the conversations that are going on collectively. We are distracted by trifles and are not thinking about deep issues. We're not constructing something where we could build a new order out of it. So I see this kind of dangerous need for some kind of ground, but people invest a little bit of energy in a conversation, in a comment, and then just flit onto some other thing. We're unduly schizophrenic in our orientation. We're distracted by all sorts of different things, and we're not grounded. So to make sure that the institution that I would one day like to found, the school that I would like to build, is well grounded, I have to have some way of interacting with people where I can build trust. There aren't a lot of trustworthy, truth-seeking people out there. There are a lot of people who have good intentions, but there are people with weakness. There are people who do one thing one day and then move on and don't have firm reasons for their beliefs. The structure of our thought has been eroded intentionally by elites who don't want us to have a firm foundation. So I think the right thing to do is to start a school. To do that, I have to be talking with people and getting on a good foundation with a close group of people. If you want to talk with me, if you want to understand Platonism, whether you just want to understand it for yourself or in the future you'd like to cooperate with me in building something, then you should reach out on Skype. I will then send you a link to my Telegram group, which is not public, but private. So I'll have a conversation with you on Skype, a phone conversation, actually talking to you, and then I'll send you an invite to the Telegram group, and then we'll read through the dialogues. I'll set up pairs for discussion, and we'll talk on Saturday mornings, all those who are actually in the Telegram group. If you want to work with me in the future, you need to make sure that you're reaching out. And if you just want to understand Platonism, I do think that I have a pretty good knowledge of it. I have a pretty good knowledge of the tradition. Perhaps not the best out there, but I'm unaware of anyone in these circles that knows it better than I do. So if you want to know Platonism from someone who has a deep background in it, then I'll help you with that. Or if you just want to get on track with me to be laying some kind of new foundation, then let's do that. You know, Platonism, the basic system, is what I've rediscovered in my own synthesis. I think it can be used as a basis for a new worldview, a new way of interpreting science, a new way of putting together all the theories of science, a grand unified theory, however you want to term it. Platonism is the best language available for a lot of that stuff. It's the simplest, most obvious language for a lot of that stuff. And I might even make just a very brief video kind of summarizing Platonism as I see it, to give people an idea who don't already have familiarity with this stuff. But yeah, hopefully I've, made the case for why Plato is still relevant. I'm willing to defend Plato also. If someone wants to criticize the theory of forms or anything else in Platonism, I'd like to see them actually defend against someone who is a Platonist, who does have an understanding of the system. But anyway, yeah, reach out on Skype. This video will not stay up forever. It's just an announcement for this reading group. We're going to start our discussions next Saturday. Actually, I'm going to be driving next Saturday, so 2 Saturdays from now. But yeah, message on Skype, talk to me if you have questions about any of this, and then I'll send you a link to the Telegram group. It's good guys who are in there already. Not your standard online forum or Discord server. It's not for hanging out casually. It's just a lot of really solid, truth-seeking guys. And yeah, you are welcome to join that if you reach out and talk to me first. If not, take care, and I'll talk to you guys soon.